you think? So let me ask you: what president, what leader? Which I know you don't want a leader. So what person would you think would match your ideology properly and be able to enact it?
Oh, I know.
The biggest problem libertarians have is you don't vote anyone.
Well, you're not seeing the video feed here, and the video feed went down. Zoom went down for a while and just reconnected. But you don't see the sign behind James. That's my candidate. He's got a poster up there. What's it say there, James?
Says vote for nobody. Leadership we can trust.
That's who. I want nobody in charge. That was one of the videos that we'd have the IPFS forever.
No. Well, what's James's solution? I want to hear from him. Who do you put in?
Okay,
and if you don't put anybody in, then how does this play out?
Nobody's going to stop the wars. Nobody's going to stop ripping me off in taxes. Nobody's going to cure the drug war. Nobody. So I'm voting for nobody. They're going to cure it.
All right, so
that's like saying which kind of poison are you going to drink for your health?
20% of the people who do vote wound up deciding your deal. Otherwise, then you have to be able to fight back with guns, which of course the minority might take away. I mean, I don't know what is your solution. This is like I'm talking to Ernie again with this clearly, which is what is it? Vote for nobody, stay home, and then this process works its way out with wallet voting, right? I mean, that's your answer? I'm assuming. No leaders, get rid of all the.
Well, let's look at the results. We've got this big, this great upheaval, this outsider took over, and it's the biggest change anybody's ever seen, and it's going to be a big deal, and everything's different now. And it sounds a lot like what I heard when Obama took over. We got a black guy in there. It's going to be different. He's going to investigate torture. He's going to look into wiretapping. He's going to stop, every time we hear this, this is it's totally different now. And then they come in and, the drug war rages on, the foreign interventions rage on, the spending increases, the domestic surveillance increases over and over again. Like, all right, how many cycles do we play along before we be like, nah,
James, first off, I could spend time talking about what I think are Trump's accomplishments and many things he's done. But here's the thing: whatever it is, it won't be enough from your point of view, or you'll disagree, and that's fair, fine. But the question is, how does somebody? I'm sure you've been paying attention to current events here. I mean, this guy was attacked before he even got in office. His presidency has been basically delegitimized from day one. They've resisted on every front in a way that no president I've ever seen have. So when you sit back at the same time and try to mock him, you think you're making points with me about he hasn't done anything. In my opinion, he's done more than many other presidents in certain ways. And at the same time,
no, my problem is that he's done more. Not that he hasn't done enough. Is that everything he has done is exactly the same as what all the others have done. That's my problem.
Well, let's put it this way: how Donald Trump should go in and abolish the Federal Reserve. Tell me. Okay, if you're his consultant,
I don't care about abolishing. I just want to be free to do what I want to do.
I want you to tell me how does Ron Paul? You just saw how the deep state operates on something that they don't approve of. So tell me how Dr. Ron Paul or you, since I guess you know better with this, tell me how you go in. How would you change it? How would you abolish the Federal Reserve on day one, the way that Ernie wants it? I'm just curious when you see what's happened to Donald Trump in full exposure mode about how this deep state.
I'm not for abolishing the Federal Reserve. I'm for ignoring them.
All right. Well, I'm just saying. So what do you expect? What do you expect a leader do except to basically relinquish being a leader and everyone goes home, which I guess is ultimately what your suggestion is, correct?
Well, I think what you're suggesting is that no matter who is elected president, that they're powerless to change anything.
No, that is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that at all. But I want to know it seems like it's easy to take pot shots at someone who hasn't done everything on your wish list. So I'm curious, if someone is on your wish list, how did they enact abolishing the Federal Reserve? I just want to curious, how does that operation work?
I have no idea. I don't know. As much as I'd like it, I don't even know if that's something that a president could get away with. I don't know.
The one dubious thing that Trump has done that you're on my wish list or something you're talking about, because I've been patient. I've been having fun with it. Yeah, it's entertainment. He hasn't really done anything other than demonstrate that it's all a bunch of crap. You know, I mean, he showed it. Look at the D. They're just making fun. I go, yes, they are. Thank you for pointing that out, but and you're any different in what way? You know, I'm
Which is the one thing? Give me that one thing that libertarians can cheer for. Give me the one thing.
The one thing, I'll tell you a big
And
one.
not pissing off somebody else who's not libertarian. Just give me the thing that's like, wow, that's libertarian.
The number one for me is he's exposed the deep state, and he's shown how a third party view can get in, how they can beat this. They can beat the system. Something libertarians have not been able to do. You know, Ross Perot.
Wait a minute, beat the system. Okay, we're getting into some. Give me really something specific. Like, look, the system's beat, so you get this.
Yeah, we get more debt. I mean, no, I'm not wondering where's the beat.
If you want to know the number one thing the system's beat, James, it's look at the damn White House. Donald J. Trump, Mr. Reality Show star, is sitting there. How do you not understand that is beating the deep state? Really?
It's not Hillary. We win.
No, it's not about Hillary. It's the fact that the deep state on both sides, on all sides, the media, the bankers, around the world, they said no. I mean, we can talk about the Bilderberg Group and on and on and on. He beat all of them, and he's sitting there despite the barrage.
Wait. Let's just evaluate this. He beat the deep.
You don't think that's the win?
Theory. I'd like to hear about this. He beat the deep state. Okay, he beat them with a bigger budget. What? He beat them, by shutting down NSA domestic surveillance?
Yeah, we don't torture anymore. Guantanamo's closed. The wars are
for the airport. He beat them by having a national day of mourning and a federal holiday for Herbert Walker Bush. Which is this? Where's the evidence of beating them besides just some grumpy people on TV?
If you want to use the word beat, I would maybe interpret that as exposing. The first,
not exposing.
No.
I'm talking about changing what's going on. Where is the like? Oh, they can't do that anymore. Oh, they stopped doing that. Oh, where? But it's all just
how. All right. Well, so what can they not do anymore? You guys spent how much time in the very beginning starting this thing off, trying to make a point that CNN has no credibility, that no one's listening to these people. So if you want your answer, there's your answer.
They've never had any credibility.
No, maybe not. I know everyone's got their own bubbles with this, but for the majority of Americans, they had some credibility left on the so-called legacy media. I know to you, it's been there, done that, you've moved on.
That's it. But when I say give me the one thing, you can say,
one thing that would be a win for me.
Wait, James, don't twist. James,
really?
Don't twist it. James, you just asked, name one thing, and I did, and now you're twisting it saying, oh, that's the only thing. You asked me for one thing on the top of the list.
I didn't need it exposed to me. I already knew.
That's freaking, I don't know. I just feel like that's...
Well, you asked me for one at the top, and I did, and then you're twisting it around, saying that all I have is one. That's not what I said was one. You asked
the best one. But that's your best one?
That, to me, is, I think, his best achievement, yes. Which I know.
Well, it may be his best achievement, but that's setting the bar pretty freaking low, man. I mean,
it's not an achievement to you guys. It's not an achievement to this audience because we already know the system's been this corrupt. We already know the primary system is corrupt. We already know we've got bumper stickers saying still voting. We already know that they sit there and they check and our searches and they tap our phones and check our. We know that, but the average American doesn't, and that's where. Look, I'm not.
The win is Trump saying, look at all this stuff that the government's doing to you that I didn't do anything about. Yay.
You know what? I think I see sometimes, and I might be wrong, but some of your frustration, at least for Ernie, is like, as a doctor, we might sit back and tell my family. This is one of the problems is you never want to be a doctor to your family, right? If I sit back and I tell my family, hey, you know what? Vitamin D is good for you, and I can go all day about it.
And lose 20 pounds.
Vitamin D is good, and I think you should take vitamin D. And my parents will just kind of go, yeah, Frank's my son, and I changed his diapers when he was young, and he's talking about vitamin D, but I haven't heard that from anyone else. And then Dr. Oz talks about vitamin D, and all of a sudden my mom will call me and say, Frank, have you heard that vitamin D is good for you? And you just want to bang your head. And I'm sure Ernie runs into this all the time. I think he's got lumps on his head from banging his head so much. People saying, Ernie, have you heard about XYZ? Right? Well, I know it's frustrating from our side, but the thing is, to me, I know we're the experts in a lot of this. We've been following this for years, but Fox News, as much as you guys hate it, and even some other legacy media, like Ted Koppel the other day, which was on my list of topics for today, Ted Koppel, who said that, Sean Hannity was bad for America, after 2 years now, has said that the mainstream media is becoming bad because they've already condemned Trump as bad for America, and he's starting to see the handwriting on the wall as a liberal legacy journalist. So it's changing, but that's, to me, when the mainstream starts to turn, when the average American starts to be aware of this, it's the Dr. Oz vitamin D is good for you moment. That is the transition when people understand that their freedoms have been under attack all this time. I know our audience gets it. You guys already just assume that it's like everyone else is stupid, and maybe they are. They've been quiet. They've been lied to. They haven't known. They don't put so much time and energy into reading websites and Snopes or whatever we read, Freedom's Phoenix. The average American doesn't spend any time looking into this except what Facebook News tells them and Jimmy Kimmel. So just to be aware that the system exists is the win. I mean, Ernie talks all the time about freeing minds. You need to, being red.
I don't know, man. If I had to be the AI psyop checking the pulse of the general public opinion of, how we're going to rule the people a decade from now, I would look at and see, yeah, I think the whole new generation coming up figured it out during the Ron Paul evolution. And they go, then they did it in 12, and they did it again. Yeah. Then Trump goes, I'm not going to let you Ron Paul me, kind of thing. And I think it was already had happened. It's been happening for a long time.
Let's not forget Ed Snowden. I think Ed Snowden did way more to beat the deep state than Donald Trump ever did with his growing budgets.
And then, of course, Donald Trump is Snowden must die. I mean, it's just I'm not feeling it, and I really think that the Donald Trump bandwagon is a diversion from what needs to happen, a distraction from the truth. And the truth is, he's part of the same thing, or he wouldn't be doing the stuff that he's doing. I'm just this budget thing. He's negotiating. He's negotiating away my rights. He's negotiating away my children, grandchildren's future. He's negotiating. Well, that's how you get in. That's how you stay in. I'm the negotiator and art of the deal. And I'm going, I don't want you dealing my rights. I can't support that. I'm not, and there's no evidence of me getting anything better.
Ernie, let me give you an example. All right, so just one example. So Donald Trump runs on a number of things. One of them, of course, is abolishing Obamacare. He goes, look, if I get in there, Obamacare's, I'm going to stick to it. He gets in there and he says, guys, all you have to do, because remember, I mean, he's not a king. He's not going to sit there and use executive action over it. He doesn't want to do that. Not to mention the media is waiting for him to be a fascist in chief, and they're just setting him up. So he goes, look, Congress, I gave you the House. I gave you the Senate. We have the executive branch. We probably get the judicial soon. I gave you everything, and you told me I couldn't do any of this. You didn't support me, and now I gave you everything. All you got to do is come up with whatever bright idea you guys have. You conservatives talk about it. I mean, Donald Trump said, banish Obamacare. Just get rid of it, and I'll sign it. I got a pen sitting here with plenty of ink. I just had it refilled, just waiting for you. And the system is, the establishment, for all of its reasons and machinations, we can go all day about that. They couldn't produce anything, right? And we could talk about how corrupt they are, or that fact that they were afraid to make a move because they thought Donald Trump would be kicked out at any time, and they didn't want to support someone that was going to be impeached any day. There's so many dynamics that, whether it was intentional or not on behalf of the establishment, deep state Republicans as well, that's another story. But he was willing to get rid of all of the government in healthcare. He just needed the bill, and they wouldn't give it to him. So
let's also remember that he promised insurance for everyone. He already made promises that's even more sweeping than Obamacare as far as government provided healthcare services.
Right.
He'll say whatever people need to hear to clap, it will come out of his lips. And if it's contradictory to what he said earlier that day, nobody cares. right?
But James, come on, you understand how the system works. The president can make any claim. The Congress writes the laws, right? So the president is trying to show a direction and say,
Well, he didn't
I
need
was voted
Congress
in.
to take away bump stocks and expand the government's role in gun control, right? So why did he, you know, I love the way it's like, well, Congress, he can't do that. He's only the president. Meanwhile, he's like building a wall.
Okay, now wait a minute. How did the bump stock thing? I saw this and I don't care anymore. They can whatever. They're trying to scare me and threaten me into something. Now, bump stocks are illegal now. How? Was it a congressional thing? BATF? Did he sign a law?
He just redefined the definition of a machine gun to include this.
Who did? Somebody?
The Orange Fuhrer.
Trump did? Trump himself did that? What the hell?
That is, it's straight up executive control did that.
That is, I don't know, Frank. You're going to have a hard time with that one. Here we have McAdams. Trump White House is a cult under Bolton. Now, this was a RT America thing, Rick Sanchez, where you had Daniel McAdams from Ron Paul Institute up there talking. And he goes, as RPI Director Daniel McAdams tells Rick Sanchez of RT America, it's because he's frozen everyone else from the intelligence and national security community out and insists on controlling all information. This is Bolton, not Trump. This is Bolton on controlling all information that gets to the president. It is similar to the role played by Bolton's ideological comrades in the run-up to the 2003 Iraq War. Keep control of the president and make sure he sees nothing that contradicts what is your desired policy. In the movie Vice that I just watched, you know, about Cheney, this is exactly what he did. All intelligence, everything came to him. Then he parsed through it. Then he went and talked to Trump with whatever cherry pick thing that he wanted. Now, it's obvious, and it's been, you know, well known that Trump, you know, he doesn't really go through the briefs. He doesn't. I got time for that crap. I got a country to run. So he has these people out there making these decisions. And John Bolton, as National Security Advisor, I'm like, that tells you everything I need to know right there. So this is, I'm not feeling it, and I'm looking, and he's almost through a I'm sorry, what were you saying, something, Frank?
No, I was listening.
You know, I'm looking through all of the opportunities, even on foreign policy. He goes to Hanoi. He's working a deal. We're going to get, you know, denuclearization. We're working a deal with North Korea, which is cool. We're being nice, you know, with, you know, Russia and China. Maybe we don't have to blow each other up. And then here comes Bolton, you know, putting the freeze on that. And I'm going, who's running this thing? And when they bring Bolton up, it's like, you might as well just brought up Cheney. You know, I'm like, what the hell? Then he gives, this is a good one. He gives, we're supporting the Golan Heights is now Israel, and Dick Cheney and Rumsfeld and Rothschild and Larry Summers, all these guys that have Genie Energy get the, pan for oil. You know, it's all done. It's good. I like it. I'm like, what the hell is that about? Oh, and right before the Netanyahu election, when he's got all kinds of problems, I am not digging this presidency. I'm not getting anything for it. I'm not. I mean, I'm glad that, you know, should we have had Hillary in there? We'd know what a freaking, you know, shit show that would have been. So maybe we've been better off. I don't know, because I don't care.
Well, I think, and I'm not being too flippant with this, I think you would be happier with Hillary, because at the end of the day, Hillary just accelerates, you know, the story, the narrative of where we're going.
Probably.
And at the end of the day, I agree that, you know, we are, I mean, look, this is how I see it. You know, our country has a big doomsday coming, right? We have a cultural civil war that seems to be worsening. You know, we have an economy that's beyond its expiration. We all know that one. So we have some major problems coming ahead. My concern is that whoever is what is the state of America when that occurs? Will we be unified enough to somehow help each other through it, like the Great Depression to some degree? We were never as divided as now. I mean, people took shots at Hoover, you know, the Hoovervilles and on and on. I mean, yes, it was a battle, but it was nothing like today. Americans were able to unify at that time. Today, we're at each other's throats, and when you have people in that are going to be taking away guns, I mean, the Great Depression, no one was talking about taking away guns. Now, you've got people running for office who think that is a great idea. I mean,
you've got people in office doing it.
I agree, and so you have.
So why would we want to support these people?
You don't want to support those people.
Okay, then that's where we're trying to. That's where I'm trying to get you. That's where I'm trying to get you to.
Well, I got.
You don't want to.
We got stunning.
My concern is the country of having the ability to communicate, to network, to have communication avenues, to have the fact that our vote can count, hopefully, so that when this thing finally collapses, there's still some backbone of this country to try to rebuild it. Because if it's not there, then of course the attack will be on the Constitution. The attack will be, guess what happened? All of your freedoms caused this. This is what every fascist has done, is blame the freedoms. And so that's the concern. That's
the freedom to hire Mexicans, for instance. Right. They're going to say, oh, it was the freedom to hire Mexicans. It was the freedom to have a bump stock. It was the freedom to have your Google search results unregulated. Right. These are the freedoms that are currently under attack by the current administration. And I find it just weird to people would support these things and still act like these matter. These values are relevant to them.
Again, I'm not an absolutist with this. I mean, I can be against certain things that leaders do. There's things I probably disagreed with Ron Paul, perhaps. But it doesn't mean that the entire principle of what this person's trying to do is off, especially when I see this, which you see it differently. You see it as I'm looking for my dream team. I got to come in and hit off my wish list. I see this as a country that is literally, it's in a fissure and of culture. And if you can't go forward without some form of culture, but then when I say culture, you think it's collectivism, and then we go around in circles like that. And it's just, I guess I'm seeing it from outside this country and what has unified this nation. And it's basic freedoms that are being eroded. It's at our soul. I mean, you've got people going to government schools who don't even understand what our rights are. They don't know how the government operates. If you don't know the rules, then you can't defend them. If they say if you don't know the question, you can't find an answer.
Well, what about the people that do know the rules? Should they be defending it?
Well, they're probably in a better position.
But you're willing to sweep it under the rug, right? Because you're going to expose the deep state. I just don't get it.
I'm not if you keep talking about the bump stocks, I will say publicly, I'm not in favor of banning bump stocks. All right. So, I mean, if that's what you want me to tell, I don't.
Please stop acting like gun control is an issue that means that you need to rally behind the leader. That's ridiculous because he's on the other side of that. Demonstrated it over and over again. Don't tell me that the freedom of self-defense is part of this precious American culture that you're going to defend with a wall when here on this side of the wall, they're creating felons overnight with the stroke of a pen for firearms accessories.
The gun control issue is a Vulcan mind meld into the state's view of the individual. It tells you everything you need to know. And, Trump doing that, I'm like, that was a bad idea. For whatever, he negotiated away my rights on something stupid like a bump stock. Who the hell gets a bump stock doing anything, nefarious anyway? That was just, hell, right. Tell you it's a freaking op just to get you to do that, And I just, it's an attitude that I want to make this point. Here I have on the screen what I'm showing here on the top of Freedom's Phoenix right now. If you refresh Freedom's Phoenix, you'll see floating cities once seemed like sci-fi. Now the UN is getting on board. And I'm going, floating, why do I give a crap about that? That's who I'm trying to get away from. The UN hasn't formally endorsed the project, and it's talking about French Polynesia and seasteading and all that kind of stuff, because French Polynesia, they were looking, we got rising sea levels, global warming, people are going to be displaced, we need to build floating cities to kind of put the people on. Yeah, that'll give us legitimacy, right, Mr. UN? So they haven't formally endorsed it, but the designs team presence at the organization's headquarters lends legitimacy to an idea that in previous years might have seemed like science fiction. The Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Executive Director of UN Habitat, Victor Kiesorb, said in his opening remarks that all solutions must be considered in how we build cities. It's our duty to make sure this burgeoning sector is mobilized for the good of all people. For the good of all people. God, screw you. I'm going on the ocean to get away from this all people bullshit and everything you're talking about anyway. It's the attitude that we need some sanction from on high. That is the problem. That is what we're up against. And I'm going, anything that I put, well, Trump is the will of the people and 51% of country. That is the problem. That is the whole problem, that we feel that somebody else has a higher claim on our life and the future and everything, our children, than we do. It happens with vaccinations. It happens with mandatory school attendance. It happens with I got to get a permit to do everything and drive and get to work and the Social Security. And when I say, screw all y'all, I'm going out in the middle of the ocean now, we got to have the UN says it's okay. Fuck them. I don't care. Where's my pirate ship? We're going to space and government's not invited, but a lot of people are going to be wanting to invite them. Hey, we need some kind of charter of the blah, 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 blah. And we're waiting for the alliance to come out and, protect my asteroid property rights. I'm going, this attitude, this concept, and what, just frustrates me so much is that when we talk about Trump and the Trump report and what's done and didn't, what would be better, we are feeding into the very essence of what the problem is, that we think someone else has something to say about anything that I do, when the whole promise of this government and the Declaration of Independence and what the whole point of the entire creation and why the United States of America became so powerful, the United States, the individual states, which was supposed to be down to the individual. The whole promise of government was the defense of individual rights against any and everybody, and when it doesn't do that, alter or abolish. And when I have somebody under the promise they're going to do better, and then they're, taking away gun rights and they're enslaving me more with taxes and debt and warring and going, I'm like, where's the win there? It's the idea, well, we're going to go to the UN to see if it's okay if we can go on the ocean to get away from you. What? That is my whole point, Frank.
But to control people, they have to be alarmed, right? You can't control people if they're not scared, right? If they don't feel helpless, they're not going to give you power, right? So I mean, look at all the alarmists that are out there right now. You got, oh, it's the Mexicans, oh, it's the Muslims, right? Oh, it's the Russians, right? Oh, it's rich people. Oh, it's firearms owners. Oh, it's carbon dioxide. Be alarmed, be alarmed, be afraid, be afraid. Are you afraid? Okay, now that you're afraid,
here's
hey,
the solution.
Yeah, now that you're afraid, why don't you give me the power to protect you? And everyone's like, ooh, well, I'm afraid, so thank you. I just don't want to play into any of that. And I don't care which of these little gangs is fighting for supremacy over me. That's all they are to me. They're rival gangs, and they've got their little territories, and they do their little skirmishes and drive-by shootings at each other, and they act like this is a big difference. But in the end, I think we've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that regardless of the figureheads, regardless of all the game, that business as usual takes place. The programs continue, the wars continue, the taxes continue, the surveillance continues, everything stays the same, except for, he pissed off somebody on CNN. So far down the list of important things to me that it doesn't even show up.
So, well, okay, but you're saying that these are all scare tactics, right? Well, don't you do the same thing?
What?
Was running our country into immense debt. I mean, aren't you scaring people about the Federal Reserve and what our debt will be?
No.
Scaring people about the bump stocks taking away our Second Amendment?
No, I'm
aren't
not.
These also fearful? You're not afraid of them taking away our guns?
No.
Or no.
I've got a ghost gunner. I've got cryptocurrency.
Like it to me.
I'm working on my pirate communications, right? I'm not here to bump somebody to protect me from it. We're just taking things into our own hands. moving
Wait,
forward.
why are you so concerned about bump stocks? I mean, I thought if you're telling me you're not concerned about our rights being taken, why are you making such a big deal about bump stocks?
Well, because it shows, and I'm just looking for a consistency from somebody that claims to value the Second Amendment. And if there's no consistency there, then it shows a problem in logic.
No, it doesn't. I said I don't have to follow and agree with every position. This Donald Trump is not the ideologue that I'm following, or people that did vote for him. You're falling into the same trap that CNN does. They think people voted on the cult of celebrity, and that Donald Trump is the Messiah, and he's going to come in and fix everything. And even Ernie Hancock tries to play that game with me sometimes on the air. People, that is not what he is. I agree with Ernie now, which is, I mean, he agrees with me now, which is Trump is, he's just a symptom of a deeper problem. He's a side effect of a deeper unrest of the people who put him in. He's not some messiah that's supposed to change everything. So I don't expect him to go down a wish list and do everything the way that I think everything should be, as you claim.
He used
Okay?
different
So
special interests. He used special interest to get himself elected. I mean, on a lot of things. And one of them was, the gun issue. Here's one. State passes bill to seize guns based on entirely unchallenged accusations with no due process. Take the guns first, go through due process second. This is in Colorado, and this is coming from exactly the words that came out of Trump's mouth. Don't wait until, this is what he was saying, about what happened in Florida. Why? Because he got some focus group said something about something, negotiating away my rights. So, I mean, how many times, and he's only halfway through, a little over halfway through his first term. He wants another one. And I don't feel like I got any ground gained, not in the legislation, and I don't care. Screw him, I don't care. My thing is in this culture thing that you're talking about. He's feeding into the culture of take my guns. And I'm just like, it's not even the gun thing. It's the attitude behind it. It's that Vulcan mind meld of how I'm livestock.
Yeah, I agree. It's the mindset behind of freedom, of understanding what that is, and if you have freedom, if you have a voice, and that's what it is. I mean, Donald Trump has been used not for his policy, but as a voice. When he sits there and he shows that meme of CNN getting racked around in that wrestling meme that they went crazy on, that says volumes just in itself. The fact that the Twitter will ban or censor anything that you and I would say, but Donald Trump can say it, and they can't ban him yet because he's the president. And so it's always an interesting experiment to sit there and cut and paste what Donald Trump has said, and you can get banned, and yet Donald Trump won't because they can't find a way about banning the president.
They're doing this First Amendment thing on the anti-vaxxers being shadow banned, all that kind of stuff, and they had them on last week, and they were talking about there's a lawsuit that they're filing using the Twitter Trump decision, because I think it's a Second Circuit or whatever. They said no, it's a town square, it's not private, and you have to let everybody. You can't ban them. And they go, okay, well, what about us? How come we, get, not that they're in support of, making the case, they would tell me openly, they go, no, probably they can do whatever, but we're going to take this and beat them over the head with it. Because they said, no, you have to be open space of be able to criticize Trump without him banning you. Damn it. So we're going to, they go, all right, fine. Then we get to do that. And they change their mind. And what are we looking at here? Here's the headlines here. 500 million Facebook users' records unbelievably end up on Amazon servers right next to the next CIA drone strike in Yemen, because they use Amazon's cloud, and they got right on the same freaking server of whatever CIA and NSA has access to use their thing as all this other data from Facebook, all the data on what next movie I want to watch, all the data on my kids, facial recognition, a picture of I'm at soccer practice, 500 million Facebook users. Now, what percentage of them do you think are U.S. citizens? I'm going, or hell, just live in the board. I even hate saying citizens. We are in the middle of this culture thing that you keep talking about. He's not helping. I mean, I just want to strangle you. I'm going, this Trump thing, he is not doing me any favors. He has yet to do me a single freaking favor. Is he coming out against this? Is he going after, this kind of surveillance? No! NSA needs more information and shoot, Chelsea Manning and Snowden.
He's been the target of the greatest deep state investigation in our country's history, most likely. I mean, come on.
They're just bitching about they're not in control.
He's taking them on, and you're sitting there saying, how come he hasn't done anything for me lately?
I don't need him to take them on. I need him to defend my rights. That is the oath.
How about stop
that they
backing
take.
them up? How about stop propping them up? How about stop expanding
his
their
best
powers?
the CIA, they're the best guy. FBI line, rank and file, they're the best guys. All I gotta say, they're good guys. They're great. They're wonderful. I love them. They're wonderful human beings. It's just this guy.
Okay, so we're back to Trump as a bad guy again.
Don't tell me that he is advancing the culture.
So he didn't abolish
He's
the
not.
CIA and the FBI. I'm in favor of abolishing the CIA and FBI as well, and IRS along with it. It's like Ron Paul. I'll go in and just get rid of whole departments. I mean, I would love that. I mean, it's on my wish list too, guys.
But if you have to instead expand the budget of these institutions, well, that's fine too.
Is that your problem?
There's no evidence of him defending me from them. All I get is him defending himself from them, and I'm going, all right, cool. Yeah, so he's got to defend from them. Yay? I mean, what about me?
It's not Donald Trump it's not him. It's the voice of the people. Ernie.
No!
I mean, it's not. They're not after him. Maybe not your voice, but the point is, it's the fact that if 51%, I don't care what the vote is or what it's on. If the American people vote X person, Ron Paul. I mean, come on, guys. You see what they're doing to Donald Trump. Do you think if Ron Paul won by the hair of his teeth, whatever? I mean, if he got in, God forbid. God help us. I wish he would. But if he got in, you're seeing how the deep state operates with the media and all. How close do you think? How long would he have survived in the White House? I'm just curious because you see how much support Republicans were giving Ron Paul before.
See, that was the goal. See, they go like this. Ernie, what if you be president? What would you do? First thing, inaugural speech. I'm going. Is this mic on? You're free. I'm going golfing. I mean, that's what I'm looking for. But no, it's got to be. He's gonna.
Great. All right. So that's fine. So Ernie, with you and James, just tell me, is that what you expect in order for you guys to be happy and content? You want a president to go in there, and I'm talking realistically, okay? Because I'm not talking just nice sound bites that sound good for you guys. Do you honestly think that Ron Paul's going to go in and say, I'm going home, government's dissolved, I'm going golfing? All right, so that's really what you're going to say the president should do or an elected leader?
Oh, hell yeah. The first thing is I demand a recount.
No, that's
but
fine.
then
That's fine. That would make you happy.
Oh, God, hell, can you imagine? Somebody gets in and go, you know what? I don't rule you. I'm just chilling out and I'm vetoing everything. You want to pass something that's that bad? You want to pass something so bad, you better get an override on a vote of you can't get 2/3 or 3/4 to pass something that probably shouldn't be done anyway. Screw you. Let me know how it works out. And all I do veto. Well, he's gonna veto everything. You got to if you can't get enough support to pass this, boom, done. Next, I'm going golfing. And I'm telling you, it would be reverberations around the planet. But that's not the goal. The goal is never to free us or represent us or do their oath of office. Their goal is to be in charge. I want everybody to give 5 minutes and $5 to whatever the hell it is that I want to do with a gun to your head to make sure you give your 5. I'm not seeing it. I'm waiting. I mean, I'm looking forward to something.
Well,
but like it's a space force.
Tell me what you're looking forward to. So, that's
being
what I'm
left
asking.
alone.
You keep saying you want him to come in and dissolve the Federal Reserve, bring all the troops back overnight, and sounds like you mean that seriously.
I would love.
You
keep saying the Federal Reserve. I don't give a shit about the Federal Reserve. All this in the Fed was a waste of time. How about ignore the Fed? Give me the ability, which a lot of states are doing, by the way. They're going, gold and silver and even crypto can be used to pay taxes. You know, you start to loosen up the legal tender laws. They do that on a federal level, boom, shit happens. So I'm going, are they going to do that? No. Hell no. Why?
Ernie,
Because he needs a
look,
Federal Reserve to turn the dial, to keep the economy going, because if they're not there to be on his side, he's going to get stuck with it for 2020. And this is what the negotiate. It's all negotiating my rights. It's all about I got right here, headline, stunning. Ocasio-Cortez praises Trump's leadership. Jaw-dropping. What did she say? I don't know. Who gives a shit? You know, it's going to be something about their something of supporting something. You know, I don't care.
Look, I'm going to go back to what it seems like you guys are trying to find. Or you identify things you disagree with, and how come X person didn't do the way that I like to do it. So you've argued with me many times that if Trump got in, he should do what Ron Paul supposedly would do. He gets in there day one, brings all the troops home over.
Just marched in, we can just march out,
and just march them all back. And look, in my glory libertarian utopia, I would agree with you. That's what we should do. Realistically, I'm just telling you, I disagree with you. Now, I mean, just when you have patients, I have patients that are on different drugs. Many of them, there's withdrawal problems. You can't just stop people's drugs automatically. People go through there are transition times. And if we turn around and get rid of welfare, right? I despise welfare. Let's say get rid of welfare. We just ban it, stop all food stamps, all welfare tomorrow. I'm sure you and James would be finally saying that Frank is consistent. Right? And I'm respectable again in your eyes. So fine, let's go and just ban welfare tomorrow. What do you think? Realistically, do you think it's just we're all going to celebrate with our flags and Ron Paul's on the dollar bill now? I mean, what do you think is going to happen the next day? Assuming he can even do it, because Donald Trump couldn't do anything without how many slap suits from federal judges.
Okay, I'd like to answer some of your questions, Frank.
Go ahead.
You're phrasing this in terms of like, you guys want everything. You bring all the troops home, end this, slash that, abolish this. Of course we want those things, right? And yeah, that would be our ideal, but that's nowhere near the table right now. What is on the table is how fast these programs are expanded. Okay. So it's hard for me to say, well, we got to wean them off of the drugs they're on when you're increasing the dosage. That makes no sense. The position to support this agenda is a positive action. It requires a reason to do it, okay? It has to be some kind of demonstrated, like this is a positive position that needs to defend. I'm not making a positive position. I'm saying you haven't made your case that any of those things are going to support the culture you claim to support as far as freedom, okay? Because it's obviously the opposite of that. Not on here or there, but on every single topic. Every single topic, any issue you can name. Oh, you're against welfare? So why are we expanding farm subsidies? Why is he expanding farm subsidies? It's ridiculous to try to hold these views in your head that, we're gonna wean people off
of
welfare.
This is an example of cognitive dissonance. This is exactly what we're talking about. This is where Larkin Rose doing this most dangerous superstition thing, his candles in the dark presentation. He's going, the cognitive dissonance is so rampant, they can't make the separation and analytically or objectively do anything other than it's my jersey versus their jersey. Here we got Rand Paul and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. What do we call it? AOC, whatever her name is, found something they can agree on. Both the libertarian-leaning Republican and Democratic socialists want Trump to withdraw U.S. troops from Syria. So this is what she's praising him on. He's like, yeah, we're going to withdraw. So they're doing, everybody's signing on. We want to go from Syria. I'm like, what the hell has taken so long already? And who had the biggest impact on our not having a war in Syria was probably Putin. He's going, yeah, you want to get rid of ISIS? Let me show you how to do it. Boom, they're done. Now what? What else you want to do? Yeah, so it's just, I'm so sick of this. And who's representing me? Nobody. Not a freaking person other than this culture thing of I don't even know what the hell that means. So the more I get into this, we have this discussion. I'm looking for something. I want something. I'm willing to support something, but there's nothing other than the deep state tried to get me out, and gosh darn it, I'm still here. I win. I mean, that's it. That's all I get.
And all he had to do was raise taxes, increase federal spending, increase interventions. You're right. Like, but hey, we really stuck it to CNN. Jesus.
Yeah,
You really think this is what my simplistic argument? That's what you think this is about?
Yes, that's what it sounds like.
So, James,
well, because that's what you said. When I said, what's the one thing you can hang your hat on and proudly, and it was exposing CNN
or the deep state, which I'm going, how is Trump not part of it?
No, it was not about CNN, James. Yeah, you're very good at twisting things. I never chat with you before, but I don't know if you do it on purpose.
It's like
or
doing
if you
Dobby.
Really don't know what you're doing. But if you want a second, let's go to the second one. If you think I'm not so pedantic with these things about CNN, about his achievements, let's take something larger then. I spend quite a bit of time trying to explain to Ernie too, on which we're on the same page somewhat now on this, is the international movement. I mean, we've got the EU and the crackdown and the loss of freedoms and culture war that they're having. Now, maybe we're going to sit back and say that doesn't matter over there, but as someone who's been overseas quite a bit and someone who watches international affairs, that is where much of the action is currently. And as I gave in a speech to the economic group as well on this, is there have been 3 events that have happened the last 5-8 years. I mean, and leading up to the last 3 really, which is Brexit was number 1. Number 2 was the election of Donald Trump. And the third recently was with Poland finally saying no to the EU. And that's a loaded, if you follow that, great. If not, I don't want to get into it right now. But the EU is breaking down. The countries are basically pulling back and also trying to have a slowdown about who runs their own governments. This is happening around the world. And the election of Donald Trump, although not a direct thing to the EU, was one of the instigators. Brexit was the first to show that, that maybe there's another counterculture or that there's a silent majority there, but then they thought it was just a mistake and they still trying to find ways to erase that. And then with Donald Trump's win, they realized it was not just a mistake, that this culture change or a bubbling culture was there all along. And then the Poland thing was the trifecta. But Donald Trump, not only being elected, showed others in Europe that they could take ownership back of their government, their country, to make a voice so that wasn't have to be sequestered and shadow banned and ignored, that they could have a voice if they unified. Donald Trump also showed a blueprint on how to do that, of how the media works. And they're seeing Donald Trump talk around CNN International, which was the only way they even learned about America, right? And then on top of that, he started throwing shade and all sorts of other problems, lobbing bombs at the EU, pulling out of the Paris Accord and others. Now, you're going to sit there and quibble, say, well, he didn't do enough or whatever, whatever. I'm just pointing out that he has made strides in Europe which are profound. And they're going through a revolution right now. The fact that next month, or is it this month? I forget, it's coming up already. The EU is going to have their vote on a whole new EU parliament. It's going to be shaking the world if it winds up being a sweep to the nationalism and populism that it looks like it's going to be. And this is in large member because of the election of Donald Trump. So no, it's not about CNN. You want to sit there and and yak about that and yuck it up. That's not what I'm saying. This is a much larger playground of a culture war about nationalism, populism, identity, about who we are as a people. And that's not just because of deep state. It's also, to be honest, just because of the technology that's allowed these changes of people being, doubling down in their own worlds. And what is technology? How do we relate to it? Who are our friends? Are they Facebook friends? What is ownership? I mean, obviously, as libertarians, we say no to copyrights and trademarks, but that's changed the world too, about how music is disseminated, how you make money with music, to the fact that Kiss now and their last tour are like bilking their audience for every dollar because they can't make money off of records because it's all free online, right? I mean, the whole Amazon, the breakdown of brick and mortar stores, and about what how does industry work? How does capitalism work in this new economy? What is freedom? What is privacy? How much should government have access to privacy? You got idiots like John McCain voting for the Anti-Patriot Act back in 2001, back in the day when he didn't even have an email account. He didn't even know what email really was. And yet he voted for the NSA to sit there and invade all of it. I mean, so we have people in charge that don't even understand the technologies that are out there. And culture is moving so quick because the technology is pushing us into all different factors and realms. Then we have people from other countries coming in that are not even being assimilated, and our own country's dividing and can't even talk to each other and agree on what the news of the day is. Okay, and so with all of this together, that is the breakdown that's occurring. Now, we want to talk about bump stocks. That's fine, all right?
No, but I want to talk about what you just did. You got your rant. Let me give you what I'm hearing. Okay?
All right, go ahead.
When you talk about people are going to express their nationalism, their support for their guy being in charge of, in their jurisdiction of Belgium sends to Brussels, who they're going to be in the European Union of, they're going to hear us now and we're going to fix it and we're going to get ruled from Brussels my way. That is the PSYOP. The fact that you're going to have the European Union's legitimate now because the people took over the yada, yada, yada. That's the worst thing that can happen. I understand it. I understand that it's a manifestation or it's an example of people being fed up and what the hell. But that whole playing out of this, just like it happened here in America, just like it happened with Brexit. Brexit's a good example. Brexit started first. We just voted and we're done. They're still not done. They're never going to be done. It's going to be outs, quit it, and they vote and kind of back and forth. But boy, did it feel good. They got their represent. This is what we want. I'm going, are you going to get it? You just legitimize this voting thing, and it don't mean shit. So I'm going, they're doing the same thing with the European Union. It was Farage, or what's his name, Nigel Farage, going in and saying, now this whole thing sucks. I'm for the UKIP party. Not only do we get out of, we do Brexit and get out of the European Union, what the hell is there doing a European Union to begin with? Now I had the guys from Ireland that we met last couple of years out in Acapulco. He's in Ireland there, and he's going, we have North and South Ireland. They're going to put up a hard fence. They Brexit because it's going to violate the livestock rules of what meat I can buy of the blah, 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 because we're not in the European Union, the North's not in the European Union with the South Ireland. I'm like, this whole idea, I'm going, why are you even voting? Why are you even worried about it? Why are you not getting, just when they try and build the wall and what, IRA is not around? You got Irish people aren't for, doing battle with the British crown? I mean, come on. This whole thing is all about, well, as long as we voted, as long as the United Nations says it's okay to have seasteading, as long as that is the problem. This is why we're going pirate. Go pirateswithoutborders.com. Every one of the letters of Captain Mark is trying to free your mind from the concept of the crown. This whole crown thing, even though the voting may represent and manifest that people would rather not have this ruling from some central command, the very mechanism they're doing to say that is what's screwing them up. Then you get the peaceful protest, and you go, you know what? The government made me put these yellow vests in my car in France, and I'm going to wear that, and and up yours. Shove it up your butt and break it off, Mr. Macron or whatever. Well, what do? They'll do what they always do. They will, have some violence happening. They'll seat it with some anarchists wearing the mask and throwing Molotov, breaking windows and so on, and boom, 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 and it always ends in bloodshed. Well, what's going to happen? Is it wide enough? Is it supported enough that the people are going to break? Break with what? They're not going to break with voting. They're not going to break with government and somebody ruling them. They're not going to break with what the core problem is that somebody else is supposed to save them or something. They're not doing that, or they won't allow that. Then it starts to happen. Then people start calling bullshit on it. And they're doing this leave me alone as voluntarist, I don't recognize your authority thing. And they just walk away. They don't want to take down the institutions. They don't want to, dissolve the Fed. They don't want to take down the monuments in Washington. They just don't care. And they're just doing their own thing in their own place locally with the cryptocurrencies and their private internets, and they're doing their own power, and they got a solar run electrical charging their car. Suck it. This is what's going to be the solution. The decentralization of everything. I am so freaking positive that this is where it's going. So that's where I spend my time. That's where I put my mind. That's where I plant my flag out in the future on the horizon. It's over there. Dawn is breaking over there where freedom, liberty torch, liberty tree, whatever is over there. And it's not manifested in some great result we like of a vote. It's the vote that's the problem. Once they get you in on that, then they just get in charge of the ballots. And I'm going, here, even in England, I remember they were doing the Brexit thing, they wanted to do what they did like Irish elections. They were counting the ballots in the Netherlands. I'm like, who the hell made this shit up? You know, it's just so driving me nuts that I understand what you're saying. It's a manifestation of a desire, a culture, be left alone. We have the 80-something-year-old retiree that had a bed and breakfast in Italy. They're bringing a bunch of Somali families in to make him house them in his motel. And he won't let the guy won't go. They're arresting him. You know, I'm going, is it some vote that's going to fix that? Hell no. It's just people know it's all bullshit because vote is what caused it. So I'm going, so I understand what you're saying, but I don't see nationalism as a solution. I see it as an inoculation for the big brother, and we'll get that national later. We'll bring it under the United Nations. We'll get them asking permission to do a seasteading. We'll get them, saying this treaty of them doing a Earth orbit space station. We'll get, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And as soon as we break from that idea of just, hey, I'm just a voluntarist. I'm good. I'm over here, and I don't care. When you do that and you start taking actions to free yourself, to decentralize your life, all of a sudden the world changes. It's doing it now.
Ernie, that's sincere. It's a sincere question. Let's discuss this a bit now that James is on.
Freedom's the answer. What's the question?
Well. So yeah, well, it's like not to be flippant, you got to think these things all the way through, right? Like I remember when I was in naturopathic school, I would hear. Some naturopaths would say how evil it is with kept up chickens and cows, and everything should be free range. This is when free range was all the rage back like in the early 2000s. And I was the one that told them, I said, we can't have all cattle free range. They said, why not? Are you in favor of cows that are blah, blah, blah and being tortured? But I said, look, just economically, if every cow with the consumption rate that we have was free range, there probably is not enough land on the planet. If every single cow from McDonald's and whatever else was free range, they didn't even think about that. If you start, I even did a calculation about how much land it would take to have, the consumption rate and have everything free range. And
well, hell, Burger King Whoppers are made up print of meat. Now they're doing
that. I know. I'm curious.
Those were horses.
I'm going to try one of them. We should check one of those out, Ernie. But anyway, you have to think this thing through. We talk about the decentralization. I agree. Decentralization is
as a lifestyle, philosophy.
When I'm in my libertarian bubble, I agree. It's like everything should be individual, right? But then you and I have that other discussion about what happens, and I'll throw this to James too. What happens, or what do you do with the people that want to be ruled? Because not everybody thinks like we do.
They can rule each other.
Yeah, make yourself out. Go over and join that Rule You Club.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, there's more of them than those that will take the effort to value either those that, because look, in order to be free, in order to be on your own, there's two components. First is the idea of freedom, which I think is both learned, right? And it's nature and nurture. Some of us, it's nature. Ernie Hancock, you, all of us listening to this station, it's pretty much in our DNA. Many of us are Myers-Briggs INTJ. I think Ernie's an ENTJ. For what it's worth, we have a certain personality type that values independence more. There's other types, the majority, that don't. That's why there's always more followers than leaders. And even Ernie Hancock made that point when I asked him if I could have his suite on his airship. I want his suite. His suite has it's a hot tub and it's got all the mirrors and like the disco ball. And I said, hey, I want your suite. And Ernie's like, no, that's mine because I'm the captain. So all right. So Ernie's already the leader of his own ship. So therefore, I'm going to be a follower. I get my own ship. So at some point, though,
Okay.
Yeah, you get your own damn shit. So it's a serious point, which is it's great to be decentralized, and I do think it's a healthy component. But you're always going to have groups that amass. Forgetting the whole sociopath issue, if we don't take care of that problem, but you're always going to have majority groups that are larger than yours that will make rules for you if you don't on your own. And if you're all by yourself in your own little, with your bug out bag, and you got your little chickens out in your farm somewhere in your Winnebago, and you think you're free, well, all it takes is Negan coming by with his band of morons and threats and baseball bats.
Did we lose him? The one.
And you have to find a balance with this. My argument is I don't want a world government. I don't want collectivism on the large scale. And that's why nationalism, as much as sometimes you probably recoil from that, but the idea of having separate countries, separate cultures that are defined, that you could call it being proud or whatever you want to have. But to me, different cultures are the solution against totalitarianism, because if you have one world government, that's the evil. But having multiple countries, it's like having a strong immune system with different varieties that can keep each in check and balance. That's why nationalism and culture are important.
Why do these different cultures have to be separated by walls?
To protect your sex cult. Here we have the Nexivum, sex cult. Yeah, whatever you call it. You wanted a cult, and you want to have them go be in your thing and freedom and get your brand. Here you go. I got pictures of it. Get your brand. And do I want to have a law that they can't do that? Do I want to go? And this is one thing that I thought was interesting on this, kind of subject was here we had Roseanne Barr, calling, BS on them. Oh, and Harvey Weinstein made me and did. He goes, the hell did you think was going to happen? You go up to his room 10 o'clock at night looking for a part. Yeah, you just a hoe. Maybe expensive hoe. You may have got something for it, but you a hoe. So I just don't want to hear. So people, they get what they wanted. They get the enslavement that they asked for. They went in and abided by whatever the majority vote was, and then they bitch. That's just sour grapes. You've been happy if it went your way. So you go, well, if you don't vote, you don't get a voice. Bullshit. I get to bitch all I want. Well, then if you're complaining after you lost the election, then you're just a sore loser. You were abiding by the process. Well, I voted against them taking my property and my taxes and my children and my health and yeah, but you voted. So I because you've been happy with the result if it went your way. I am so for breaking that paradigm, and that paradigm has been beaten into the heads of some of the most respectful people that I know, like Frank. And I'm going, at what point does it get into your head? You're going, yeah, I'm going to go voluntarist. I'm just like, yeah, the voting thing is, I'm just wondering what has to happen, Frank.
Yeah, seriously. Would there be like, oh, I can't believe Trump did that, I'm going voluntarist? What would be
not even Trump. Just the whole thing.
Yeah, what would be the thing that's like okay, yep, that's just more than I can defend. What would that be?
From what, world event or
no government, anything? That government. Well, we just didn't vote hard enough. It's this whole idea that we get to represent ourselves in the European Union vote or Parliament vote or the U.S. vote or vote even locally. Locally you can kind of start making more decisions. Maybe I can, but I don't know.
I guess. Well, I kind of see how you're trying to frame it. I'm not trying to skirt it. I think to me the issue is we're already here. This is probably why I'm, supporting someone that doesn't agree with all of my principles. It's because it's been for a while, but the fact that the American people their voices are not being represented in the government that's supposed to be afraid of them, number one, and supposed to represent them. I know, it's always the round robin about having any government or leaders at all with libertarians, but in a way, I look at laws or I look at voting as, and hear me out before you just, lash back on this, but it's more of a codification of the culture, and the thing is, when the culture is unified, they don't look at laws as oppressive or government because it's reflecting a unified culture. But when the culture gets more and more diverse, which in some ways you could say is a strength, but you can have diversity in race and ethnic foods and such, but when the culture loses loses any sense of semblance of unity, then you can't codify anything.
Yay!
And I know you're going to say, good, yay! I don't want to codify. I get
I'm
that.
not hearing
I
anything
understand
I
how
don't
you
like.
see it, but my argument, like with Obamacare, I've said this when I've spoken to many groups who tend to be liberals, and I'm usually the one conservative or libertarian arguing against Obamacare before it was called Obamacare. I've been fighting this from day one, and James, you probably don't know, but one of the reasons I became a naturopath, I gave up being a surgeon, was simply because I did not want to be part of a government healthcare system that I knew was coming back in the 90s. I mean, it's been an uphill battle creating a cash-only practice, in order to stay out of a system that I knew was coming. But I still sit back and I argue with my liberal friends. I say, look, I think government health care is the worst idea in the long history of bad ideas for a whole host of reasons. But if 51% of Americans agree on it and that's the way we want to go, I will support it. It's just about, I just want to make sure it's an equitable discussion and that we can have a dialogue. But when you have so-called mainstream media not represent any other views, and then if you try to have other views online, you go online, then they want to censor and ban that as hate talk, and we go down this rabbit hole. You can't have a discussion.
No,
I've argued with healthcare.
There's diversity as hell everywhere, except I had a intern that did this at ASU. She goes and they're talking about diversity. This is like 04, I think, when she was my intern for the radio. And I'm going, you want to get your street cred? You want me to sign off on your thing? Get an article passed. I don't give a crap. There's a bunch of busy work here we can do and everything. But go do some research, diversity, whatever, an article, and we'll get it published in paper and rock and roll. Well, she did. Got published in local paper here, and it was on the diversity of philosophy, diversity of thought of the faculty. Now you'd have the black, lesbian, transgender, whatever the hell, professor or what you call it, and you got this guy that's got purple hair and diversity of long. I've been around and from Chechnya, some whatever the hell they're talking about, all this superficial appearance diversity, but they all had the same philosophy. They were all Democrat, they were all progressive, they were all, and that was the point that she was making. Got published, and they didn't like it. So when you talk about all this diversity and represented, whatever, when am I represented? When is the thought of, I don't need a ruler and you guys do whatever you want? I'm voluntary income tax, voluntary and not, filing voluntarily. I mean, what about that? Nope. Kind of. Why do they even use the word voluntary? It's all a psyop. And I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm just, what is the solution? Go pirate up here. Are you really going to build that ship, Ernie? The ship's going to get built by me or somebody. It's getting built. Sergey Brin from Google's already building one. They got a bunch of them they're using. Airship's going to be ubiquitous within a couple of years. That's not the point. My point is it represents a pirate ship. It represents that jurisdiction doesn't follow you when you get past 100 kilometers up. Anarchy's only 62 miles away. That's why that is. It's a mindset. You have 62 miles and you're out. You're done.
I agree, Ernie. It's a mindset, right? And so it's a mindset that doesn't exist in most other countries. It exists in this country that we take for granted. And we found that by having foreigners come and tell us. So the question or concern that people have to talk about culture is that if we have more and more, let's say if all of a sudden 60% of new people coming in come from these countries that don't understand these freedoms, it's not even in their DNA, they can't even fathom it. If all of a sudden they become a majority in this country, then we have a problem. It's not about their race. It's not about their religion. It has nothing to do with that.
Because I got a government I've seen this happen. I give you an example. You'll understand exactly what I'm talking about.
Wait. Can I just finish that point? Is that if you have people, if the majority of people come to your house and they outvote the very people, either in principle, in actual voting at the voting booth, however you want to look at it. But if more people come to your house that don't share your views and tastes and whatever it is, at what point is it not your house anymore? And if these people who come don't even understand the concept of freedom, then you lose the concept of freedom and at its core, in its DNA, that you guys take for granted.
Yes, and I'm going to answer your question. I want to make this is a perfect point. when I started my restaurant, I had my pizza restaurant, I brought some of my best employees with me. You know, I was a general manager at Pizza Hut at the time. I burned myself. I couldn't do my business anymore. I, needed some health care coverage, whatever for my family. I go general manager Pizza Hut. Corporate, whatever. I'm going, man, don't you guys ever change. I'll be right back. Because damn, it was managing the lowest common denominator kind of. I'll go do my own. So I open my own restaurant, bring the best people over. Some of those, my assistant manager, Elizabeth Castillo, she was an questionable immigrant, okay? So this is, based on what? Her and her family, all the best employees, I love them. Yeah, great, wonderful. IRS, they just want you to give them their thumb. You don't need to be the 13th one using that Social Security number. The IRS called me in. I'm going, they just want to give you tax ID. They don't give a crap. Yep, that's exactly what was going on. In the I-9 that I fill out, I go in and it says, yep, the documents presented to me appear to be genuine. Yep, they didn't give me. Yep, looks genuine to me. I don't give a crap. I just filled out the paperwork. I did my due diligence. They gave me a piece of paper that looked like something. Well, I don't care. Do I think she's illegal or not or undocumented? I don't care. Because it said on there that the documents presented to me appear to be genuine and have proven that they have a right to work. It actually said that, a right to work. I'm like, fog this mirror. You got a right to work. What the hell does that even mean? So it just pissed me off. Now, this is what I'm up against. As these industrious, quality, not your hoodlum from the hood people bring up their families and they have like a dozen of them living in a 3-bedroom, whatever the heck, and they are doing everything they can to, later they bought homes, cars, and when SB 1070 happened, boom, pushed them back into Mexico. A lot of the housing problems came because of a lot of the Hispanics, couldn't stay here and get a job and pay their mortgages. So I'm going, okay, what am I competing with? As when they first started here, when I first had them as employees, they lived in itty-bitty little apartments. When they brought up her husband's sister, they brought up, this other friend. They brought up, this is what I had to compete with. The government and the social warriors, whatever, the social services would go to door by door where they knew all these immigrants were, getting them to fill out forms to get welfare, to get food for their family, to get baby formula, to get cheese, to get on the... That's what I was competing with. Instead of them coming and willing and working to work whatever they could, they had some government agent there to get them on the dole and take my money to subsidize their life. And I'm going, that is the culture that you're talking about. That is the problem. And the voting allowed for that. The government allowed for that. And they get them on the roll of vote Democrat and we'll keep your goodies coming. This is what we have to contend with. And I don't see voting or government or anything being at all a trump card or doing me any favors other than just providing a job to those that want to work. That's it. And if they're criminals, boom, in the hooskow, send them back, do whatever. Let the system deal with it, or people, or hell, just Darwin take care of it. But I am fighting the philosophy of a government that can pass out goodies. In every respect, that's what I'm up against, is these guys with unlimited resources wanting to bribe people into voting for government. Whether it's good, bad, whatever, they are on the dole. And this entitlements has just gone stupid. And now, well, as long as they're from Appalachia or they're from, the plains of, or they were born here in America, well, then they get access to your goodies. And we get universal basic income, and everybody gets health care. It is this mentality of government itself that we can vote ourselves bread and circuses that is the problem. And you're not going to get me off of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you have the quote unquote outsiders that get elected by promising not to cut Social Security, not to cut Medicaid, to promise health care for all, right? Like, yeah, that's people like that stuff. They vote for that.
They come and they say, vote for me and I will violate your civil rights. Vote for me and I'm going to steal from that guy over there and redistribute to you. Vote for me and I promise you, 2 chickens in every pot. Vote for me. And I'm going, wow. You want to talk about, should they be able, does the First Amendment allow them to say, put her in jail, jailed Hillary. What was it they were chanting?
Lock her up.
Yeah, lock her up. So you're doing, they're arguing about that while the guy on the podium is saying, we're going to steal from everybody and do this. I'm going, how is that not a crime?
I just came across a fun quote. I'm going to take care of everybody. Everybody's going to be taken care of much better than they're taken care of now. End quote.
Who is that?
Who do you think it is?
Trump.
Yeah.
I understand, Frank, and I'm glad that, we had, these years that we can examine this, and it's been fun and we go, but I'm looking for, we're getting into the 2020 election. We already did the 2018 election cycle. What did we get out of that? A bunch of more Democrats now in charge of the House doing what? See, I'm not, and then now that we go into this 2020 thing, I don't know how many rights or negotiations away or violations of or wars or mushroom clouds or tariffs or all this limitations on me am I going to have to suffer under Trump for him to try and get elected again? And I don't even trust the system. Yeah, I don't.
All of it. Even more of it.
This whole thing is going. I think by this next election cycle, 2020, Frank's going to start, coming around a little bit. You think that's possible, Frank?
Yeah. Well, it's a defined come around, Ernie.
To go, yeah. It's just, Ernie and James is right. It's just the best way to win is not play.
Right about what? What is you think?
The best way to win is not play.
I love freedom.
The best way to get more freedom is not play with the freedom takers. Not to sanction them, not to give them a vote, not to sanction the process by participating, not being a cheerleader for the the mechanism that's the beast that's devouring my future. I'm just not.
Ernie, well, wasn't it you that sat there and said that you couldn't wait for the hearings with Donald Trump and then this whole thing go to more special counsels?
Yeah, no. I wanted the impeachment. Yeah, bring on the impeachment. I want to see.
Exactly. Bring it on because it's more stuff. It's more stuff that'll be exposed. I mean, you salivate over that.
Well, yeah. Impeach. I want a Senate trial. That'd be awesome.
Why? Because it's exposing how the system works. And that is the win, right, Ernie? You've said this a million times on the air. So what part are you not agreeing with me on this about what the
be careful. You're saying the win is impeaching Trump here. Yeah, Ernie's the win, impeach Trump. Why? Is it because I want him out, or I go, no, I want the trial. It's going to expose
I just
everybody.
love to see these people fighting amongst themselves. Right? The more they struggle against each other for power, the weaker they are when they come after us. So good.
I think it's moot. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. I think we've all expressed ourselves, but I think it's a moot point. I think it's getting to the point now that people are going, because that's what I've been looking for all my adult life, is the ability. They'll make, I give you a good example. It can apply to food. It can apply to shelter. It can apply, get the government out of the way, and I'll use, milk cartons to build my house of and throw plaster on it, and I'm done, and bite me, and it'll probably be better than, and you're not allowed. You got to get a permit. It's got to look this way. You can't paint it purple. You can't. I'm sick of all these controls when that's the fear. But you could have a purple house next door. I don't know. Would I be free? Well, yeah, but you'd have a purple house next door. I'll give a purple house, for freedom. I don't care. Yeah, but people will put billboards on the north face of the Grand Canyon. I go, will I be free?
But my culture.
But will I be free? You know what I'm saying? So I actually got that at an editorial board. Well, what do you want? I go, I want the world's highest bungee jump from the Hilton on the south rim of the Grand Canyon. That's what I'm going for. Woohoo! And they actually printed that, They're going to. So I'm just going, and of course there's somebody got it out there. I want to be able to get my gun. And there's another one they printed. I want to be able to go on an airline and they hand me a 9mm because I forgot mine. I want to go on Fly and Die Airlines. Let me do it. And they go, I can't believe this. Well, what happens? A lot of people go, yeah, what he said. And it pissed them off. They don't like it. When people are just not afraid of them. Well, we're going to call you this or that. I'm going, God, I don't care. This is what I'm thinking is going to happen. there is going to be increasingly more decentralization down to the individual. And that's going to include a big thing is not just communication, it's going to be electricity, it's going to be power. And as cheap battery capacity is just amazing. Every 3 months or so that I look, it is a big increase. If you look every few months and you're seeing 5% increase in storage capacity, after a couple of years, holy shit. Okay, then you have the efficiency and multiple bandwidths of light that's going through and the layered of the blah 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 blah. It's getting to where a third of your roof and a third of the weight and space of a electrical, and man, all of a sudden you're powered and you're powering your car. Well, they go, well, you know, that's not efficient use of, and it's cheaper too, and it take a payback will be 10 years, and oh my God. I go, yeah, the current price of electricity now. And I go, and you're confusing me with someone that gives a shit. What I'm looking for is what? Decentralization. I'm looking for what is it worth to me to be off of their grid, to not go and pay Exxon, you know, money and taxes to the government and all, you know, what do you think it's worth to me? It's worth me buying a Model 3 and a Tesla power pack and a solar, or a lot of that I made my freaking self and dropped an electric motor into my Montero. I mean, you know, this is what's coming. It's a decentralization with an understanding of we're not just off the grid, we're above the grid. And the idea that 62 miles away is all you need to go to be free. This is what the threat is. And if they get me trying to vote for that, then they win. Before I even started, they win. Or at least I lost. So my whole thing is I'm not giving them a vector to win. I'm just decentralizing my life, making it just like I did with Freedom's Phoenix. Freedom's Phoenix, all the power in here to post, to use, to forward, to send is part of the custom modules for anybody. You can have your own special edition. You can do your own editorial board. You have your own email dispatch. You can do your own sales stuff. A lot of people don't know that. You know, we haven't emphasized this. We're going to start pushing this after we, at the end of the month, we get all this in. We start, you know, pushing for subscriptions again. The reason is because Facebook came in. I made it easy and cheap and kind of what I go. Look, man, how's that working out now? Well, we're going to be doing this. Why did I do that? Because I wanted everybody to have the same powers that I did, and that's what we're doing with the communication grid. We're doing with all the information that we're sharing on, you know, the aquaponics and the chickens and the shelter making the domes. This is what I do. Why? Because I know decentralization down to the individual is what they, them, those fear the most. They're not worried about whether we end the Fed. They're not worried about whether, you know, we, you know, take over some jury box. They're not worried. They're worried about us not giving a shit and taking care of ourselves. That's what they're worried about. Well, here comes their biggest fear. Hello. Captain Mark says, suck it. In my opinion. All right, give you a final thing, James, and then Frank gets last word. Go.
Thanks for being a good sport, Frank.
Now, Frank's one of my favorite people.
No, I feel like, you know, I know you're not a dumb person, and but it just seems like you're so wrapped up in this culture thing that, and
because he watches cable news all the time.
Unplug.
Oh, come on, really now?
I don't know. I just feel like you're really struggling to work through some inconsistencies, you know, because I hear your values, and you come down on welfare and you know, you support free trade, you like self-defense. You know, when I hear about these values and this American culture that deserves to be pretending, you know, it's like we can all be like, yeah, like these sound like great things, right? And then the disconnect happens when you're like, well, of course we're going to have, you know, when the things you end up supporting through politics are actually 180 degrees from that. I'd like to see you, hopefully, you know, just start to put these ideas together in one brain and notice that they don't fit. That's just my hope.
In Frank's defense, he's always been about the open process and being able to have all the selections for president or whatever available to him. And he found out, going through his history and so on, that it was manipulated, controlled, and it wasn't what it says it was. And that was his gravity towards Ron Paul, and it's this justice thing, because he is what is it, IMTJ or whatever it is. His sense of justice. There has to be some justice. Well, that, getting some, and somebody pays and somebody benefits and somebody's represented and we're on the same, wavelength. My thing is what I realized over the time, and you're probably, I don't know, at least a few years or a few election cycles, a decade, behind a lot of the stuff I've been doing. It's just a realization that the best way to win is like that game. God, what was that movie with Matthew Broderick? War Games. The best way to win is not play. I just going, I get it. The best way to win is not play. So I've come to that conclusion. So it's easy for me to pick apart this kind of stuff, because I just know better. I've been through this so much that there is no collective solution other than a voluntary, temporary alliance of overlapping interest between individuals that just want to hang out for whatever reason, and then they're not. They're not obligated to each other for anything, and the morals and the culture comes from their own freedom to associate with whomever they want for whatever reason they want and use whatever money they want. I mean, this is what happens, and all the problems that we got has been from how far we've gotten from that, and it's all based on government. And you get the vote, and the idea of, well, you got the vote, you had your opportunity, you got to have your voice, you got to vote, didn't you? You should have voted. I'm going, that's the psyop right there. Here comes Larkin. All right, you get the final word, Frank.
Thanks, Ern. Well, so, I appreciate your comments, James. I think some of this is, if you don't regularly hear the show, and I understand, probably not your cup of tea. And my background, it might be a little more involved than you might know. I won't go into the whole thing, but just like highlights of my grandparents raising me, who are from the Depression and fought the Nazis, for what it's worth, and hearing those stories and spending most of my time with elders and, living overseas. And I voted for Ron Paul the first time in 1988. I mean, it wasn't a newbie for me. I mean, I've been libertarian since I was about 12 years old. Definitely a strange kid. It was before the internet, of course. I mean, I've fought this in many ways, and many times I think maybe I'm a little more similar to Peter Schiff, or you guys there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry, your video went out. And I sometimes, I had this discussion with Ernie years ago, that I think I'm more similar to Peter Schiff or Rand Paul, which I know for the the kind of the diehard libertarians, they're sort of considered sellouts, or like you say, I think, I'm not using my whole brain, or however you worded that. I mean, it's that, maybe that's the case, but maybe these are people that have learned a little bit more from seeing what their absolutist fathers have gone through, whether it's Erwin Schiff, Ron Paul. Doesn't mean they're wrong, but these are people that were grown up, that were raised around libertarian philosophy, and they saw how the system is played out, and they see the ideals, and they respect their parents. They understand the goals they're trying to get to, but at the same time, they start to see the other side, and how do you implement this? And so, I don't want to go down that path right now, but I just don't want you to come away assuming that I'm just, sitting there drinking the Kool-Aid of Fox News, and I'm some isolationist that's afraid of the outside culture, doesn't understand concept of freedom. It's quite the opposite. I mean, I've been fighting this, I used to take my paper route money and donate it to the Libertarian Party when I was the only person under the age of 50 in the room, and I was like 14. I mean, they were all giving salutes to me, thinking I was the future, and I was all by myself, right? I mean, this has been an ongoing fight, so it's not that I'm obtuse to this. It's just that I see from a world perspective, the technology, so many factors coming together, and Ernie's right, but we're seeing kind of like a squeezing of a balloon, and the two sides are popping out either end. And of these two sides, you have the decentralization, that technology is allowing everything from battery, life, and Ernie could go all day on all these things that are happening, and I agree. Decentralization, whether it's crypto or blockchain, there's so many different components. But at the same time, on the other end, you have the equal and opposite convergence of the collective, because this technology is allowing the collective. It's allowing people to see beyond their village, which is up the street. We went from our own little village, then we went to our town, then we started paying attention here in America to our state. And then the state became overrun by the federal government, and the federal government was a larger collective. And now we're looking at whether it's NAFTA and the EU. And then at some point, a world government they're trying to go for. And on top of that, even if it's not an official government, it could be just a government run by a culture of a network. I mean, I see kids today, playing games with people from China. They're playing Mortal Kombat and talking to kids in China. So there's a cross-pollination of cultures that is occurring that in many ways might supersede everything we're talking about. I just hope that these cultures that start to blend together have all had a taste of true liberty, hopefully a little bit more in the way the American style has been, and that pollination, that germinates in this culture around the world. But the problem I see though is when you're an individualist, which is great, and I salute that, and that's who I am myself. But the thing is, if we're all individual, and Ernie and I have gone around on it, but it doesn't take away the genetic. It's in our genes for people to be followers. There's always people who like to be who follow. It's just you take a bunch of apes, you put them into put a bunch of monkeys together. There's always an alpha male, and everyone follows the other. It's primate behavior. It's in our DNA. And aside from the fact of Ernie, which I also agree, they're trying to change us inside and make us probably even more of a follower. And that's a whole nother discussion, which I probably would agree with. But that is what we're up against. It's human nature at its core. And I think it's a mistake to assume that we as the individualists, and Adam Kokesh and people I deeply respect, we're all individualists, but we are the outliers. INTJs make up less than 1% of the human population, and we tend to be the majority of libertarian philosophy. So we are the outsiders. I think it's great. We're a beacon. We're kind of, I think, ideologues to show a point of view as kind of a hallmark or a beacon to use as a focus. But like anything, there's absolutism, and it's not always going to work out when the majority or a large percentage of other people think otherwise. And if people are followers, and people, a lot of them don't want to be involved in this. People just want to raise their kids. They just want to go work out. I mean, one of the reasons I'm overweight half the time is I don't have time to work out because I'm busy, with my offices trying to pay all the taxes I got to pay for everything. And then I'm busy following all this news and not to mention, what is the news now? How do we even unify over what is truth? I know you're going to both recoil and laugh at this about, good old Walter Cronkite telling us the news. And yeah, okay, it's PSYOP and CIA told him what to say, whatever. But the thing is that at least there was some unification as far as what we thought the collective narrative would be, rightly or wrongly. The thing is now, how do we agree on anything? And we're going through an experiment. We're going through history right now of how do we communicate with each other if the deep state gets dissolved, which of course we all want. If the mainstream media gets dissolved and it's wallet voting and we find our own networks and Freedom's Phoenix and whatever it might be, that's great. I see that as a plus in a way. But the other side is, how do we then start to communicate? How can we agree on anything when we're not even watching or hearing anything from the same movies, the same music, maybe not even the same language, the same version of news, this different science is looked at differently? We are breaking down in such a fundamental level, and it's easy to get in our little groups and our meetup groups and political groups and think that all of our friends all think the same way. How come everyone else isn't thinking that way? And I see every group doing the same thing, whether it's you guys, whether it's my liberal friends, I can go with the Republican friends. And we can't even agree on where our source of information is or what it should be. It doesn't mean we have to agree on one source, because that day is past, I think, unless the fascists get their way. We are going to be having multiple ways of news or information gathering. But that is the beauty of living through this part of history. How will that play out? Obviously, decentralization is going to happen, but then how do we agree, right? I mean, how do we even have some sort of agreement about who, if Ernie gets his little airship, if Ernie wants to go park his airship one place, well, what if someone else wants to park his airship in the same place, right? Someone's got to decide that, or we're just going to have cannons and shoot each other.
Do I
I mean,
have to vote for somebody to decide it?
No, you can just shoot them down, I guess. But that's the question. This is an experiment I mean, it's an experiment of human history. I'm privileged to be able to live through it. One last just comment on this is, is Donald Trump. I know you're going to recoil on this too about maybe being Abraham Lincoln. Not that Lincoln was maybe the deity that people have said as well, but keep in mind, Abraham Lincoln comes in when the country was at each other's throats, and they couldn't find any balance. They couldn't find any unity, and they did a Hail Mary and put in this strange-looking tall guy from Kentucky that was not even a major party, right? He's a third party. They put in a third-party person. And
how'd that work out?
And exactly. And each side thought he wasn't doing enough because he wasn't on their side. He tried his way to unify in different ways, and you see exactly how did that work out. Now, aside from the problem of the federal government having more power afterwards, which I agree, I'm not obtuse to that either. But the thing is, it's interesting that he started. The country was at wit's end. They put in someone to try to find some kind of, I guess, unity. Maybe it didn't work out, but both sides took pot shots at this guy. No, aside from the bullet. And here it is, how many years later? And we're almost at the same point, right? We have another, at least hopefully civil war that we're at now. And the country does the same thing. They're at wit's end, and they throw in a third-party candidate. And Donald Trump was a third-party candidate. Make no bones about it. He wasn't an ideologue. We put him in, or people who voted for him, as a deal maker. And deal making is not always about getting everything you want. It's about trying to figure out how to massage the disagreements and try to move forward, when everyone's at a stalemate. And that's what this country's at. That's what Donald Trump's trying to do. So when everyone's batting down saying, well, he's not doing blah, 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 I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not an absolutist. I'm not, taking the sword for Donald Trump like I'm some clueless Kool-Aid drinker there, James. I'm just pointing out that he was put in for a different reason, to find some sort of coalition and open communication. And the Twitter was one of the first ways to do it. You saw how much they didn't like that one. I mean, allowing networks to exist. His own kids are coming out about the censorship of Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. The fact that, that's becoming part of the narrative. Do you think if Hillary Clinton, or even if Bush was in there, that they would be defending Alex Jones or defending independent media? Not at all. So those are the wins. It's not an easy job. I don't know who could have done it better, and I'm sure you guys have your list of people. Fine, but that's why he's in there, is to try to find some sort of unity in a country that's about to fall apart. Can he or not? I don't know. Is the economy going to fall apart before all this occurs and just put the death nail in the whole thing, and we're all completely shooting each other? I don't know. So we're gonna find out. But that is the success of this man. I think in history he'll be known as one of the greatest presidents, in my opinion, and I stand by that. Right now, he's not. Right now, he's not. Right now, everyone's just seeing it through their prism, and I understand it. But in the world stage, in this historic shift about communication, network, a representation, it's technology, it's the people, it's culture, it's all of this being blended together, trying to figure itself out, still in the shadow of 9/11, which I know we kind of, we imposed on ourselves, and that's another story. But all of this is occurring. So, I mean, bump stocks, we can talk about that, or the spotted owl, as I joke around, but to me, this is a large and meta issue from someone who's traveled, who spends most of my time with foreigners, at least most of my life, and I just see this a little bit different as keeping, what the rest of the world finds important about America, which Ernie does as well, the freedoms that we take for granted. It sounds like a cliche, but it is, and it's true. And I will. The last thing is, when I came back from Japan, James, when I left to Japan, I was like many teenagers, college people at the time, that you're frustrated with your parents, you're frustrated with the country, and all you do is you find all the problems with your home country. It's very easy. And when you go to another country, if you find like a teenager, they go to France and then they say how much they love France and how come America can't be like France. Every country young people go to, they think that's the best. It's like when you meet a new girlfriend and it's like they're the best and their family's awesome, and until after maybe you're married for a little bit, whatever, reality sets in. But it's like a new suitor, and you get really enchanted by them. But over time, you start to see, the blemishes. Like any relationship, no one's perfect. And when I was in Japan long enough, I began to understand that. I love that country. I'd love to go back, but I was asked to stay. I could have lived in Japan the rest of my life. But I started to see enough of that country and other countries, began to understand and appreciate my country in ways I didn't really see. And when I came back to America and I was standing in line to go through customs, and this is before you got rectal exams like you do now, but I went through, and the agent there, was no TSA back then, but he looked at my passport and he could see how long I was away. And I came back and I had a Buddhist haircut. My ponytail I still have from being with the Buddhist. I was wearing Japanese clothing and Japanese sandals. I mean, I was really immersed in that culture coming back. And he looked me in the eye and he said, and it was just really sincere. He gave me this little look and he said, "Welcome home." And it's funny, I'm a little choked up again even talking about it. It sounds like something that a Republican commercial would say. I know it sounds very cliche, but I at that moment, it hit me about how lucky I was being born in this country. And all of those tropes I heard old people say, and the foreigners who moved to this country from the Soviet Union, who would sit there and take a sword for this country and how much they loved it despite all of the problems, I really began to understand it. And anyway, that moment I'll always remember. And it's why I say I think Americans should go overseas, spend time over there. And I think a lot of these problems that we're having, the infightings, might start to not be the same. I think we're fighting amongst each other over concepts because we've been lied to. We've got sociopaths in office. People have been in control of the media, the government for so long. We're not even aware of who's running this deal, and it's not us. We're being pitted against each other to divide and conquer, and we're finding all these different issues that X person's not doing this and that. It's we're being divided, and the people who've been doing it are being exposed slowly, not as quick as for Ernie, who wants them all goose stepping out the first day, but it is happening. And I think what we just saw last week or so, the Mueller report, is the beginning of this turnaround. Maybe we'll have more investigations. Ernie will love it. More of this will start to come out and be exposed, and that will be the win of just knowing about, at the end of the day, that we hopefully are still in control. How do we keep it? And then how do we move forward with this technology of decentralization? How do we stay independent while the rest of the world and technology is trying to pull us together into a collection, to a collective, centralized banking or whatever it might be, necessary evils, I don't know. But that is the conflict. It's the two extremes of ultimate decentralization and the ultimate collectivism of the world governments and the world economies at odds. And how that plays out is going to be fascinating to watch. So thanks for giving me the last word, if nothing else. I know it's a mouthful.
No, we're going to have you hang out and we're going to talk about you for an hour. But no.
Fair enough.
I got work to do. This was fun. I'm glad we got it out. And I think people understand our perspective and what. But you guys make up your own mind of where you're going to go, because there are options. You can decentralize yourself. You can just have fun poking the bear using the system like James does, or you can I don't know, vote, I guess. What Frank wants you to do. So
drink Kool-Aid.
Drink Kool-Aid. We have an actual mug. One of the listeners, when we first started doing the Trump Report, you'll like this, James. He sent over, and his wife had put on it Trump Kool-Aid mug that had the vinyl on it. So he has his own mug here.
Nice.
Oh, I love it.
I know, it's awesome.
I just want to really quickly agree with Frank on something, because I feel like I've been, busting his balls for a couple hours when he said that he thinks Trump is going to be remembered as one of the great presidents. And I'm afraid I have to admit that's true, because when you look at the great presidents, they're the most horrible people ever. You get, just Google great presidents. You're going to see FDR. You're going to see Abraham Lincoln. you're going to see some of the greatest scumbags that have ever walked the earth. So yeah, I'm with you there, Frank.
Hey, I'm adding a new friend here, Michael Jameson, because he's James Babb friend. Yeah, I just went and checked my Facebook thing. I got something on about promoting the, I never look at this stuff. I got 5 gazillion, whatever the hell. So anyway, we're playing until we can't anymore. Thanks, Dr. Tamburi, for coming on. Bab, you've been a big trooper today. It's awesome to get caught up with you and stuff, and thanks. It was entertaining. And for those on the stream, I'm sorry it kept cutting in and out. It's like, Microsucks 10, had to reboot one time. The Microsucks 7 had to do something over here. I hate this crap. But all my Linux stuff works pretty good, if you could use it. So that's what we're doing. Hey, peace, guys. Freedom's the answer. What's the freaking question? 'Cause we say. All right. Pay.